Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabans. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We'll cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. We back, baby, we back. But before we even get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is CTABANZ. You want to follow the channel on Instagram, same as the channel, DREAMERSPRO. If you want today's full show before it comes out on YouTube, it is streaming for free on the DREAMERSPRO podcast. We have pinned below. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to our normal studio, and I am excited. Finally, I got some space, and I can talk my you-know-what today. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, as you guys know, I've been supporting Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers this season. I think it's important that I state from the onset, these Clippers are very, very good. Even though they lost last night to, I believe, the Cleveland Cavaliers, if I look at the box score, they ended up losing that game 118. But the game that they won before, if I'm not mistaken, was against the Boston Celtics in Boston, and they handed them their second loss at home all season long. I think they now have a 20-2 record. The other team that beat Boston at home was the Denver Nuggets. So it goes to show you just how good of a win that was for the Clippers. And when I watched that game, I mean, it was total annihilation on all fronts. Defensively, the Clippers played probably the best defensive basketball game I have ever seen this team play as a unit. Kawhi Leonard was on playoff mode. He was in play, and I was looking at this dude, and I'm like, damn, this dude is good. Like, Kawhi Leonard is really good, and it makes me begin to wonder and think back to one Stephen A. Smith. Now, as you guys know, last season, the Clippers are going through some challenges. It was a bit bumpy for them. Kawhi Leonard only played 52 games last season. But what happened? When the Clippers got to the playoffs, Kawhi Leonard was absolutely sensational in game one against the Phoenix Suns. Clippers were able to win an improbable game against the Phoenix Suns, I believe, in Phoenix. Then game two, Kawhi played. He scored 30 points, but they lost. But then we later found out that Kawhi Leonard had been injured and that he will not be returning to the playoffs. So what happens? Stephen A. Smith gets a whiff of gets a whiff of the news. He goes on ESPN First Take after it had been determined that Kawhi Leonard was not going to be able to return. Stephen A. Smith went on ESPN and said on live TV that Kawhi Leonard should be forced to retire and is the worst superstar in sports history, causing him to get into a huge back and forth with JJ Redick on ESPN First Take. So for those of you who don't remember that, that's what we want to get into. But before we even get into that, this video is brought to you by our brand new sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is really simple. Instead of just selecting a team, you just select two or more players, pick more or less their projected stats, and then you place your entry. For example, this week, I'm selecting two entries. Stephen Curry for more than 25 points, and then I got Anthony Davis for more than 2 blocks, and Damian Lillard for more than 4 3-pointers made. PrizePicks is also the only daily sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So for example, if you have a player who gets injured in the first half and doesn't return to the second half, that player gets automatically rebooted. What I also love about PrizePicks is that it offers weekly promotions like Taco Tuesdays. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. And once again, once you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So what we want to do is we're going to play the exchange of Stephen A. Smith on ESPN saying this and then talking about Kawhi Leonard. Then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
Hey, so put the camera on me right now, please. Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers should force Kawhi Leonard to retire. I'm done. He needs to go home. Okay? It's over. I'm not in any way questioning the legitimacy of Kawhi Leonard's injury. A matter of fact, I'm fully embracing it. I've heard very, very alarming stories about his health. You see people talking about he's walking around all limping all the time. He is not a healthy individual. I'm not questioning his heart. I'm not questioning his courage. I'm not questioning any of that. The man's a 2-time champion. He's a 2-time MVP. I said it the other day, and I said it, and I regretted it only because we heard about some stuff that happened with his family, and I didn't know that was in the news and stuff like that. I don't wish that enough. God bless you and your family, and I hope everything ends up well for everybody. But he is the absolute worst superstar you could possibly have on your team. He's barely ever there. And on top of it all, he does nothing to market or promote your franchise. Absolutely, positively nothing. He got $42 million this year. Him and Paul George are making identical dollars to the penny. $42 million in change this year, $45 million in change next year, and then a player option at $48 million. He couldn't go last year at all. Okay? Couldn't go this year when it counted. In the past, he couldn't go when it counted. Arrived in Toronto telling them, don't look for me for more than 65 games. Didn't even give him 60 games. Hasn't given you at least 60 games in the season in at least the last 4 years, okay? And then the playoffs come, and this is the difference between him or various other people. We see them get hurt. We'll watch Kawhi drop 38 one game like he did in game 1 against Phoenix, 31 in game 2, walk off the court, and then the next thing you know, Ty Lue gets a net. He ain't available today. And oh, by the way, he ain't available next week. And he ain't available the next game. You don't know why, but you hear and you hear stories. Yes, they have a medical staff. You hear about he got his own medical team. But damn it, they should be fired. He's never healthy when it counts. And again, if you're not marketing and promoting the sport, if all you're doing is saying, I'm gonna grab my lunch pail and play. But 50% of the time, you ain't grabbing your lunch pail to play.
I mean this in the nicest way possible to both of you, but listening to each of you right now, it's very obvious that you've played zero high-level basketball, and you do not understand the requirements of doing that. And I do mean that in a nice way.
Okay.
I'll respond to this. No, hold on. You bring up Zion.
Yes.
I talked about this when we talked about Zion. You brought up Zion. Trying to play coming off a hamstring injury, a serious hamstring injury. I've had to deal with it multiple times in my career. I popped it grade 3 when I was in college. There's a weeks-long mental hurdle to come back and play. To be able to just do a simple closeout. A sprained ankle is very different than a sprained knee. A sprained knee for someone who has torn a quad tendon and who has torn their ACL is very different than someone playing on a hobbled ankle in the 1970s. It's a terrible analogy. I'm sorry. It's a terrible analogy. I want to tell a quick story real quick. Because I think you bring up the medical staff, all this stuff. When I played for Philly, when we would have off days, everybody knows I lived in Brooklyn when I played for Philly. I commuted back and forth for games and practices. But if we had an off day, I'd go up to Midtown to the NBPA, and I'd work out there with my New York trainer. A basketball guy would meet me. A weight guy would meet me. We'd work on my body, whatever. So there was a week where Kawhi was away from the team. It was coming out of All-Star break. Mm-hmm. He was away from the Spurs, and I was up there working out. He was there. When I say this dude was so meticulous in his work trying to come back from that quad tendon, I remember, I'll never forget it. I used to walking lunges with like 50, 55-pound dumbbells in each hand. This dude is doing slow walking lunges with 90-pound dumbbells in his hands with the wrap around his quad, which limits your blood flow. This guy gets after it. I understand the frustration with the load management issue. What we're talking about here and questioning his injury, and you say, I'm not questioning his injury. You just said we saw Paul George get hurt. We didn't see Kawhi get hurt. Let's give the guy some credit. He did it in game 1. He went out there and battled game 2. Guess what? If he could play, he would play. I want to get clarification on this worst superstar. Do you not have any empathy for someone who has came back from 2 major leg injuries?
Okay. So you heard the exchange between all of these people. So that's what Stephen A. Smith was saying. Now, if you talk to Stephen A. Smith today, he's talking about he won't be surprised if the Clippers are one of the teams to make it to the NBA Finals. Well, why is that? If you look at the Clippers' record since December 1, the Clippers are currently 22-4 since December 1. January is over. which means that over a 2-month span, the Clippers only were averaging 2 losses per month. And no one is going to hold that loss to Cleveland against them because, hell, they just beat the Boston Celtics. And if they just beat the Boston Celtics, that tells me all I need to know about this current East Coast road trip that they're currently on. That's the first thing. But let's get to the second part. Let's look at Kawhi Leonard. Let's look at Kawhi Leonard's stats since December 1, okay? Kawhi Leonard since December 1 is averaging, and by the way, he's played 27 games in that time span, so I think he's played all the games. He's averaging 27.2 points per game. He's shooting off a 51.1% from the field. He's shooting 41% from the three and shooting 83.9% from the free throw line. And on the season, Kawhi is scoring 23.8 points per game, 52% shooting, 88% shooting from the free throw line, 44% shooting from the 3-point line, and getting you 6.2 rebounds and 3.7 assists. Now, what those numbers won't show you, because some people watch that number and say, well, Kawhi Leonard can't really score. If you watch any Clipper game, I challenge you to watch 3 Clipper games this season. You will notice that Kawhi Leonard is doubled every single possession of a game. I haven't seen anything like it. This guy is doubled every single time up the court. He's doubled. That goes to show you how good of a player he is. They double him every single possession. Last night, the game that they played against the the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was being guarded by Jarrett Allen. Go back and look at the highlights of Kawhi Leonard in that game yesterday. And while he was being guarded by a legitimate 7-footer. You go look at those highlights and you tell me how that dude was able to fare with Kawhi Leonard. To me, listen, he's on an absolute tier. The Clippers are arguably the best team in the Western Conference. I'm still going to defer to the Denver Nuggets, even though they're not the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. I'm still handing it over to the champions. You got to beat the champions first. I'm giving them their respect. Nikola Jokic is the baddest man in the NBA right now. I don't care who you got. I think he's the best player in the world right now. And this is coming from a Kawhi Leonard fan. Nikola Jokic is the best damn basketball player in the world right now. I know Joel Embiid is doing his thing. I know Luka Doncic is doing his thing. Until I see them beat that dude, until you see Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets eliminated from the Western Conference playoffs, you should not relax. I don't care who you are. I don't care what team you're rooting for. It could be the Suns. It could be the Lakers. It could be the Wolves. It could be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Until Nikola Jokic has been eliminated from the playoffs, your ass needs to be on watch. That is a bad boy. He is a bad boy. So I'm still going to give those guys the respect. But listen, you said the guy should retire. Look at him now. You telling me this the type of player that should be out of the NBA right now? You telling me he's the worst superstar in sports history? Would Steve Ballmer and these guys agree with you? I don't think so. But y'all let me know. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.